Hey everyone, welcome back to the Self Leadership Lab, a place where we explore self leadership so we can lead ourselves and show up and lead others. Today, I'm really excited. We've got Joshua Delp on the show today. And Joshua, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself because, like I told you in the intro, you're going to do it a lot better than me. So, welcome. Joshua, welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be on your show, Bobby, the doctor of strategy. I've never been a doctor of strategy, but I'm excited about it. I'm Joshua Delp. I'm a pastor. I'm a coach. I'm a strategist also. I'm passionate about equipping men and leaders to really live and lead with the courage, the integrity, and the self-awareness you need so that your life is built to last. I didn't grow up with like a clear picture of faith or even a good model of manhood. I definitely didn't see a lot of good leadership early on growing up. And I grew up very broken, but God radically changed the course of my life. I stepped into full-time ministry. I was passionate, I'm going to change the world, but like many leaders, I just hit a wall. And actually, that season of hitting a wall, spinning my wheels, drove me to find a coach. And so, kind of phase two of things is not only did I love coaching so much, because I say it like this: Jesus saved my soul, coaching changed my life. And I got unstuck. I started operating in a much more, again, there are these words: confident, effective, integrous, self-aware. I started to own all those words in my own leadership. And so that's become the basis of my work. And so through our business, Rising Leadership, or our program, Risen Men, and in 26, we're launching the Risen Project. That's going to help ministry and marketplace leaders grow their endeavors through the three pillars of character, leadership development, and marketing, because we've found you need all three of those things kind of firing. I'm just trying to do everything I can to honor God and build others up, man. So if there's anything I can do to just leverage that and that serve you and what you're doing, I'm excited about it. And I pray your audience will find some value you as well, man.
Yeah, it's a very exciting story, and the three programs that you've got going on are truly amazing. And we'll put all the context and everything so people can get to you and find out more in the show notes, of course. Um, but let's just start with the risen men, because you talk about helping men out. But what gave you that burden? What gave you that vision to reach out to men specifically and get to that target demographic?
Sure, bro. Gosh. I mean, honestly, I have to say it does start with my upbringing. So my parents were divorced when I was 9 months old. My father was an alcoholic. I grew up very broken, like I said. Um, I had no idea what it meant to be a man, but early on, when you don't have that strong, healthier father figure or role model, you go after everything what the world says. You party with the best of them. You try to be the most popular. You try to get the most attractive girl. You go to college. You're running and gunning. You're going after success and money and sex with the hottest girl. I was a jiu-jitsu fighter, a bouncer in downtown Orlando. So extrapolate what that lifestyle was like. And it was fun for a stretch, but it was also very empty and it was very broken. And I'm grateful. God literally, he one morning is actually January 21st, 2007. God said, "Wake up, you're going to church." And I literally like sat bolt upright in my bed. And I was like, I thought someone had broken into my house. And I walk out in the living room. No one's there. The front door is locked. And I walked into his church, and I had this overwhelming sense I've come home. And my life's never been the same. And it wasn't too soon after that that I realized I have no idea what it means to be a man. And so I'm very grateful that God brought three wonderful male role models, mentors in my life, and it just changed my life. Those guys changed my life. They're a model, they're example, they're an investment in me. And so I've really been doing this. I mean, I launched my first small group not that long after, and I was discipling people and investing in people from like right then. Like, so I've been doing that for golly 17 years or something. And I've just walked with men. One, I've had to walk out of my own brokenness, right? I was I stuttered very badly as a kid, still stutter a bit, nowhere near as bad as I did. I then was molested at age 5, had my own journey with drugs and alcohol, was exposed to porn at 11. And guess what, dude? I'm normal. I'm normal. I'm not like some broken dude, even though I felt very broken. That is flipping normal, my man. That is the normal male experience. That is not the abnormal male experience. And so I just found, because I was growing up like this, that, and I was finding my way out, that these young men started to attract in my life who needed guidance, who were just, as rubbery, I call them Gumbies, man. They're these little rubbery creatures that aren't, they're just useless. They can't follow through on their word. They're scared of, they're trying to prove themselves, very insecure. And guess what, man? I'd love to say that stops around like 25, but bro, I've been working with men now for a while, and I can meet a 65-year-old man who's just the same way. So all that to say, I'll share a story. I was pastoring a few years ago in Albuquerque, New Mexico, on the west side, and I had a buddy that I met. His name was David. Great guy, funny guy, hardworking guy. Owned owned his own construction business. And when I met him, he had lost his son to epilepsy a few years prior, and he was just struggling, man. He was struggling to get past it because he felt like he hadn't been the father that he needed to be. And his son died, and he just was, still grieving. I think it was 3 years after the fact when I met him. And so he would work. He would work this. He would work it out. He would try to outwork the pain, right? And he was a great worker. He was really great at his craft. And then when he couldn't outwork it anymore, he'd binge. And he'd go on a binge cycle. And I wasn't exposed to binging. I had done, my partying days and all that, but he would binge. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? And it was a cycle I started to notice. And he was in church. I got to baptize him. I'm grateful for that. And right after, and then he broke up with his girl that was a member of the church, and then he kind of isolated, and then that cycle really got accelerated, and it's started to say here, drinking stuff to, and that I had to do his funeral, and that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, because he was a great guy, you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't broken, he wasn't like there, he needed men in his corner. He needed brothers around him so he could process the pain. He needed brothers in his corner when the temptation of addiction came. And so that was when I felt God's release to, like, okay, I think you need to step into this, not just doing a men's ministry at a church, because that's great, and I think that has a wonderful place. I think men of faith need to be around other men of faith. But I felt called to do something outside the walls of the church that really anyone's welcome to. It's not a ministry, it's a coaching program. It's a coaching and accountability community, because I want folks who may never step foot in the walls of a church to still find a place that is still faith driven. I mean, I'm a man of faith. It's built on a biblical and worldview, because I don't think you can live a thriving life without God. I really don't. I think that's a farce. And so that's the community, man. We just launched it earlier this year. I kind of like soft launched it. We got a few guys in there, and I'm praying it grows, man, because as long as I've been working with men, they never act like they want it. They don't act like they need it. And yet when brothers are around each other, man, they are strengthened. It just is the case, brother. So it's not popular work, even though it's kind of become, then you just throw in the culture that we live in and the shit show that is.
Yeah.
And, so the tagline of it is championing the strength and dignity of modern men. And so we really have like a 12-month program. I got years of good stuff that I can just pour into guys, and we show up every week. We bring our real selves and we try to get better, man. So
yeah,
that's the genesis of Risen Men.
wow. There's so much to unpack there, and so many truths that I found in my own life, because as my audience knows, the whole genesis of this podcast and the book and just kind of my new way of thinking was I was at a low point. And, after writing and telling everyone my story of depression, anxiety, giving up on myself, giving up on life, so many people that were in my life were like, hey, man, why did you never tell me? I would have been there for you. I would have had these conversations. You know why? Because I'm a 47-year-old man, and I was always taught men don't do that. Men don't reach out. We're supposed to be the foundation, the pillar, the strength in the community, in our families, and you don't do it. And I tell you, I'll say this to anyone who's listening today, who's struggling: get somebody. We talk about accountability partners. We talk about just a partner that you can share your stuff with, because, Joshua, you said you're nothing special. I'm certainly nothing special. I'm just a normal guy. But I tell you what, the fact that now I have a community that I can reach out to, and that's the beauty of coaching. Because when you go through coaching and you learn to be a coach, you get a lot of people who want to help you, and you just bring them in and you talk. But it means so much. Some of my dearest, closest confidants now are men that I can open up to. And 5 years ago, I would have never done that. So I want to encourage everyone to do that. I applaud you for doing that. Are you seeing real growth in just men communicating? Are you seeing more leadership, more self-leadership, more, getting their lives back on track by opening up?
I think it's kind of funny, man. It's like you don't even see it in the week to week, and then I'll do a check-in, and the guy's like, dude, I've dialed in, and just from the rhythm of his check-in, I think it's, sometimes it's like, why didn't you reach out? And then you do reach out, and okay, that's good. So there's this kind of reactive support network you can have, or this kind of unstructured relational world, which is vital, 100%. I'm not saying don't do it, but I think even the rhythm of intentionality of, hey, like, we're investing in each other, I'm investing in growth and getting better, holding myself accountable to values. So I talk about the 3 S's that we want to be men of self-respect, strength, and service. You become self-respecting when you live in accordance with your values more than not, right? As opposed to being, as opposed to compromise, right? I talk about strength. You grow in strength when you have competence and confidence rather than complacency, right? And you grow in service when you live your calling rather than a life of convenience. And so you start talking about things like values, the things that you're going to hold yourself accountable to, the things that you, as a man, that these are the things you kind of gotta have in place. And it just does the work. The rhythm of it does the work, man. It's like going to the gym, on a regular basis, or going to church on a regular basis. You cannot shape a character overnight. And I think what happens is, this has been the discouragement, but also a bit of the hope, is it seems like those who don't need it as much are the ones who value it. You know what I mean? And they're just taking off. And the guys who like really kind of need it, they kind of bounce in, they bounce out, they bounce in, they bounce out. But you know what? As with all things, you can't do it for folks. And all you can do is work with those who want it and sow the seeds into anyone who will be a part of your sphere of influence. I think that's what leadership is, right? You cannot, if you're doing it for someone, that's called oppression. That's called tyranny, right? And that's not what we're into. And so just being a guiding influence in the right direction, however we can, is better than nothing, right? So in terms of like individual ways, do you see the walls come down? I think the space you create matters. And if guys feel comfortable, I think also I will say this, like I'm open. I lead with transparency and a level of vulnerability that I think most guys would struggle with because I come from such a broken background. I've never had the illusion I've had it all together. And so I think when you do step into situations like that, what did your friends say? Why didn't you reach out? Because we're not trained to be vulnerable. We're not trained. Like shame keeps us locked in because we don't want to be viewed as weak. But when it's like, hey man, we're all weak. You're full of shit if you say I have no weakness. It's a joke, man. Like, what did Paul say? It's like, in my weakness, I'm made strong, because that's when grace actually enters my life, man. So the guy is like, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong. Like, even the strongest of us have weak spots, man. And that's all right. So that it takes the shame out of it, man. If we can remove the shame, if we can diffuse the shame by bringing our struggles into the light, honestly, I think that's when that transformation can really start.
Yeah, that's so powerful, and that vulnerability is very important, and I find that once you start sharing with other men or whoever you share with, you'll find that you're not alone in this.
Yeah.
Every human walking around has similar problems as you do. It might not be the same level, it might not be the same area, but we're all struggling, and taking the time to admit it to someone else allows you to learn from them, because they're going to either comfort you or share something with you. And then we can take all this in and become better people ourselves. So I think that that's a very valuable lesson for everyone, and getting grouped together. I mean, there's a saying we say in English, birds of a feather flock together. And that can be negative. If you're hanging around the wrong birds, you're going to be a bad bird. If you're hanging around the good birds, you're going to be a good bird. If you're hanging around supportive birds, probably you're going to support them. They're going to support you. You're going to have that meaningful relationship. And I know it sounds woo-woo and it's not very manly or whatever, but I've seen some gym bros get together and support each other. I mean, they do in the gym, right? I mean, these weightlifters, bodybuilders, or whatever. No one's going to say they're not manly, but we need to take that approach with our mental health and our spiritual health and our well-being, because in this society, you mentioned it before, it's hard to be a man. And I like how you said modern man, because it changes all the time. I mean, I don't know how old you are. I feel like we're contemporaries of some sort, but I was taught one way, and then what I hear today is different. Being a man is terrible. Doing this is terrible. You're not doing enough. All these things I hear every single day of my life. Well, no wonder men are confused, because if
Yeah.
you're already hurting and someone's telling you you're not doing enough, chances are you're not going to make yourself better. So,
Or that you're just bad for even existing.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, God bless feminism, man. I do believe that, like seeing women raise in their standard of equality is wonderful, but feminism today does not lift women up. It actually just tears men down. And I'll be honest with you, I think where it is today, it's actually also destroying women, but that's a different podcast.
yeah. That's another conversation. But as far as, it's a great leadership principle there, because the way you become a better leader and the way you help serve others better is not by tearing anyone down. And this really translates to the self leadership and our own journeys as individuals, because I guarantee you, if you're tearing someone else down, what are you doing to yourself? What is your self talk like? I got to a point where I had to start saying the thoughts in my head out loud, so my wife would hear it. She'd be like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'm like, "Myself." And she's like, "What?" And I would never talk to you that way. I would never talk to my mother, my brother, anyone like that. I just was tearing myself down. And in a culture where we tear someone down because they look a little different, or they're a different gender than us, or whatever the case may be, is not healthy. And I think you bringing men together and giving them, and I hate this word, but it's true in this case, a safe space where they can go and be men and put their things down. Because if I walk into a book club in my neighborhood and say, "Hey, I'm having a tough time being a man,"
There's not the space for it. Yeah.
right, it's not the right place, and nor should it be. Right, women need their own groups, we need our own groups, and we need mixed groups as well, because we all are humans. I don't see people as men, woman, black, white, Asian, anything. I just see them as humans. We're all made in the creatures of God. And so we need to treat everyone like that. And it starts with us, though. If you don't see yourself as a human, and if you don't see yourself as God's image, then you're never going to be able to give it out. So great thing you got going on.
Let me speak to that real fast,
Yeah,
because
please.
I like your metaphor, your quote, "Birds of a feather flock together." I remember this one phrase: "If you want to be eagles, don't hang around with turkeys." And the problem is that I think shame and insecurity keep us flying at a level that is comfortable. And
Yeah.
so getting in an environment of challenge, of accountability, it feels scary. It feels, you know what I mean? I think that's part of it, but that alone levels you up by just being around others who are trying to be their best, or be better, I should say. And I'll be honest with you, man, there, we're in the coaching space, the human development space. There's not a ton of that out there, dude. There's not a ton of spaces or communities where we can get around other people. Like, that's why being a part of different networks is so vital, because it raises your lid on seeing what's possible. But it works backwards. When you get around other people of greater value, you start valuing yourself more.
Mm-hmm.
And I am here to say, man, you talk about self-leadership, self-worth, self-concept. If you want to use that one, security or insecurity. We talk about leadership, and I work with CEOs, pastors, execs, middle managers, leading significant stuff. And they've never dealt with some of their insecurities, the way they view themselves. And so you say, like, "Oh, it's just about better strategy or better tactics." It's not, man. Like, without fail, I end up speaking into someone's soul and their heart. Hey, we got to work on the way you view yourself. And just the thing about that is, here's the three major concepts of self: a sense of belonging, a sense of worth, and a sense of capability. So belonging when you're at work, when you're with your family, even when you're in a new environment, do you feel like I belong? Do you feel like I fit? I can fit in here. I matter. I'm wanted. I enjoy. I'm wanted and enjoyed. Right? Like just is. And guess what? Is it true or not true? It's just a belief. Likewise with worth. When you walk in or when you're dealing with your leader or your employee, you feel like you matter more because you've got a role above them? Or so if that's the case, you matter less as a human because your boss has a bigger role. That is like ungodly premise, not true. Power says that, right? But if you have a strong sense of worth, it's like, no, I matter. I have worth. I have something to bring to the table. I'm made in the image and likeness of God. That is just built in. And when you free that thing up, you get freed up to lead or lead up if your leadership's crap in the bed, which happens often. They need folks who will lead up and stand up to them courageously. If you don't have a sense of worth, you can't do it. You can't do it because you're afraid. You're insecure. They matter more than me. And likewise with the confidence and the capability, do you believe you've got what it takes? And the answer is, it's just, is it true or not true? It's belief stuff, man. So the self concept is everything because everything stems out of there. So a lot of the work I do really does start with the leader, because if the leader changes, everything else they touch is affected. And so I think you're doing great work, man, because it really does start with leading the self.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And you know, those three scenarios you just gave, wherever you are, you're still the same person. And it's very important in life to know that there's always going to be somebody that's better than you at something, some skill, some knowledge, some ability. Okay. That's just, there's nothing you can do about that. You said you did jujitsu in your earlier days. I've never done it. You're obviously going to be better at it, even if you haven't done it for a while than me. But you know what that doesn't do? That doesn't give me any value or worth as a person. It's just something. And so many people focus on the thing, the skill, the knowledge, the abilities. They don't focus on the person. So we can all still learn. And then if I like internalize that, oh, well, I'm hanging out with Joshua and he's so much better at this than me. Well, I should learn from you. There's no self-doubt. There shouldn't be self-insecurity. There shouldn't be anything, because I'm still Bobby. One thing that, you know, I hear, and I talk about this a lot, you hear people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, they still say they feel like they did when they were a teenager. Well, I believe it's because you are who you were as a teenager. Sure, our bodies deteriorate, we get stronger, we get weaker, maybe over time, and we do things, but you're still the same person. And someone I had on the show last time was talking, we need to stop being human doings and human beings. Internalize that concept that you are who you are. Show up. And then I think I encourage everyone, just try that for the next week. Every situation you go to, where you said work, family, with a boss or a subordinate, whatever, just show up as you and see what happens. I mean, that's what you and I are doing today. We never know each other. We didn't know each other today. We're just showing up. But if we were insecure in our conversation, it would come out and we wouldn't have this conversation. So take the limiting beliefs. I believe, you know, you hear psychologists and brain experts always say that our brains are capable of like 70 to 80% more than we allow them to.
Sure.
Tap into that. Start today and say, I'm going to stop putting my own layers, my own limiters on me. You know, self-limiting beliefs are probably the only thing that you've got, because I'm not going to limit you. Like you show up, let's say I show up at the jiu-jitsu. You're not going to say, oh, Bobby's terrible at jiu-jitsu. You're going to say, oh, he's a beginner. He has a lot to learn. Let me impart that learn. Not only does it improve my being, it improves your being. I know we're going on a diatribe here, but I find it so important. Get out of your own way. And I say this from a man who got in his own way. And there was a time a few months ago, I couldn't get off the couch because I wanted to like myself, and I wanted to give myself the courage to do it. I was so far down. Did you know who did that? Not you, not my wife, not anyone I interact with. It was me. I set that limit to myself, and fortunately for me, I shattered it. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on my thoughts. Give me your
Yeah, it's not,
anything.
yeah, it's good stuff. Like, it's because we're all on this journey, right? So, you brought up neuroplasticity and, or excuse me, neurobiology. Um, and you talk about the power of limiting beliefs. The problem with limiting beliefs is those bad boys are wired in there. By the age of 7, we're our brains are pretty wired in. So like our family upbringing is vital. That stuff is a lot of leaders don't want to admit. I'm just going to go be successful now. Where I come from doesn't matter. But if you had a critical upbringing, my man, those beliefs about you, those critical voices, that shit is on repeat and that will eat your lunch. And so
Mhm.
we talk about, in the Christian faith, there's a scripture that says, do not be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. In the psychology spaces and the woo-woo spaces, they talk about doing your, what are they called? Your affirmations, right? I think affirmations have a place. They can be very powerful when you're affirming what God says about you, when the scriptures, declare about you, because you're renewing the wiring in your brain around what I believe is the most powerful view of yourself possible, that you're made in the image of God, that you have the Spirit of God within you if you're a follower of Jesus, that you're redeemed, that you have hope eternal. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but let's just bring it down to a practical leadership standpoint. It's that if you say, well, I'm not that, I'm not a good speaker. Okay, let me bring a real practical. I'm a stutterer. I believe for years that I can't speak. I'm never going to be popular or cool, or I'm never gonna have an attractive girlfriend, or I mean, you want to talk about limiting beliefs? Like, I could barely speak. Like, and then when I did start to speak and started to work on it, and then started to feel like I'm called to actually speak publicly, the sham, like, oh, I'm a bad speaker. I have this stutter control. You have to grab them, dismantle them one at a time, and replace them. And so there is a renewing process to those limiting beliefs. And that's the beauty of neuroplasticity, is when you identify the critical voices, right? It's great that you were languaging, you were literally having to speak them out so you could just capture them, is what we say in the scriptures. It says, take captive every thought. That's what you were doing. They call it cognitive behavioral therapy. We've been doing that for thousands of years. And it's taking captive a thought that doesn't serve you and rewriting it. Problem is, it's like an 8-lane highway in your brain. So when you get tired, when you get stressed, when you get worn out, the path, it's easier to go back on that old pathway. And so you've got to keep at it. So it's like it's like, you drop, and all of a sudden you got this mountain of dirt, or, whatever. I'm switching metaphors. It's like, you do shovel at a time, and all of a sudden you've got a big hole. Or if you do a brick at a time, all of a sudden, wow, I've got this wall now. It doesn't, at first it's like, there's a brick. It's a brick. This isn't going anywhere. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's there. And you're like, oh, I do have worth. I do have the confidence. I do. And so, I mean, really, especially newer leaders, we all have insecurities that we're dealing with. So, and newer leaders, I really encourage trying to do that journey of renewing your mind. Where are those insecurities? What beliefs are driving those insecurities? That work, man, some folks just have no idea how to even start that. So I think it's really important work just to bring it up, is you do have limiting beliefs that are eating your lunch as a leader, as a husband, father, wife, daughter, mother. I mean, it's just there, man. And so doing that work of renewing the mind, that's part of leading the self, man, because the mind will lead you in places you don't want.
Yeah. Yeah. The mind will protect you. And I talk about this a lot. And you brought up something that's a soapbox for me and on the whole affirmations things. I want to touch on that for a second. Yeah. If you have an affirmation that you don't believe or you're not willing to do the work to do it, don't have that affirmation because it's not an affirmation. You're adding layers of insecurity into your life.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. Wishful thinking. And you can't be wishful in your thinking. You have to be intentional in your thinking. So if you have an affirmation, make it something you're going to do because I'm sure my audience is tired of me saying this, but I think people need to hear it. If I say I'm going to do something today and I don't do it, it's going to be harder for me to do it the next day because my brain's like, Bobby, you said you were going to do this. You didn't. And there must be danger or whatever. So if you're going to affirm, I believe that affirmations can be very valuable, but make sure you believe it and you follow through on it. So don't say, and don't make them too wild. You know, everyone talks about measurable goals and sustainable goals and all this stuff in the coaching arena, but make them small because it is going to take baby steps. I loved your analogy about the hole or the wall, even either one. You're not going to start off with a hole, immediately. It's going to take a lot of work. It's shovel after shovel. It's brick after brick, but eventually you get there. So, and as you lay one brick and then you're in brick 400 or 500, it becomes so much easier because you've instilled that in your brain. Like you said, the highway, that's a great other analogy. You know which lane to be in at this moment. And then when you get tired, just move to the other lane. It doesn't mean that you can't succeed or you're a failure. It just means you gotta settle down. But
I talk about white belt goals versus black belt goals. Don't
I like that.
goals when you're a white belt.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good one because it's so often people compare themselves to.
And we're fooling ourselves. You're like, I'm gonna do this. I'm like,
yeah.
Slow down.
Well, this is going to come out probably early January, and I'm sure a lot of listeners have set New Year's resolutions. And the only thing I resolve to do in 2026 is become a better version of myself. Right? I'm not gonna say I'm gonna do something because I don't know what life's gonna throw at me. And how many people are gonna go out and try to, let's just say they're gonna get in shape or go on a diet, and they go so extreme, it's not sustainable. When you do this rewiring, this capturing of the brain, as you so eloquently spoke about, it takes time because you didn't get to your thinking or your thoughts overnight. You're not going to correct them overnight. So be gentle with yourself, but also be disciplined with yourself because all this self-care, Netflix and chill society we live in now, sometimes it's great to sit down and watch a movie and relax and do your brain. Sometimes rest is the most important thing because as someone who pushed themselves to the limit all the time, I'm struggling with this all the time. But you know what? Most times, just get out there and do it. And as we talked about earlier, when you find your purpose, your meaning, it's going to be a lot easier. It's not going to feel like a struggle. It's like it's this change. I never told you this, but I went through a major weight loss change. 5 years ago, and what the biggest shift for me was when I said I have to work out tomorrow. To oh boy, I get to work out tomorrow now. Like me, I took it to the extreme. I waited till the coldest part, the rainiest part, the snow, because I wanted to suffer. That's another thing too. When you do many self-affirmations and this capturing, you don't need to suffer more. You've suffered enough.
Yeah.
Take yourself forward and go for that. But now you bring up some very good points, and I appreciate your sharing. And we didn't get to your other two pillars.
It's all good.
Yeah, but before we close, let's talk about it. I mean, so you've got this Risen project as well. So the Risen Men is the men specific, which we talked about. You're helping men. Tell us a little bit about the Risen project because I think it's fantastic, and I want people to hear about it.
So the Risen project is really it's the joining of my endeavor and my wife's. So we both launched our businesses in 2020. Me with coaching and leadership development, and her with digital marketing, media, branding, communications, right? Really, we realized you kind of need both if you want your endeavor to succeed, right? So the way we say it is the Risen Project's all about helping ministry and marketplace leaders grow their endeavor through character, leadership, and marketing, because you really have to have the character, right? What we've been speaking about, the leader has to lead himself. Then
Hmm.
the organization has to succeed. You're a doctor of strategy. You understand the organization must thrive and it must win, but then you've got to get the word out. And in our competitive marketplace, our social media saturated marketplace, you've got to do that effectively. You just do. And so I was actually in marketing before I went into ministry. And so this is us really joining our businesses because we were working with clients and I'd be working with a leader. I'm like, hey, we're getting your stuff wired out, but your marketing sucks. Your message is not good. It's not clear. You're not getting enough folks. And my wife would be working with marketing clients, getting their brand going. And it's like, okay, we're finally getting your messaging and your content calendar strong. It's aligned. It's getting folks in the door, but you're not effective in closing deals. You're disorganized. Your leadership is unstructured. And so it's like, she'd be like, hey, you need him. And I'd be like, hey, you need her. And it's like, why don't we just build a thing where we just help the organization or the leader just let's grow their thing in a holistic manner. And I've been excited because everyone I've mentioned is like, well, yeah, okay, great. That makes total sense. And so we'll be launching the Built to Last podcast in 26. The Risen
Nice.
Project will be our, our flagship offer. And really it's just the name of the business, but we'll be launching like Risen Men is a community online for men. The Risen Project flagship offer will be for ministry and marketplace leaders that are wanting to grow in the areas of character, leadership, and marketing.
Nice, nice. And so you're gonna do a podcast with your wife? Is that, do I understand?
That's the goal. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
goal. It'll be interesting, man. We'll see how it goes. We did a podcast in the past. It did well. But just finding that rhythm that works is always a joy.
Yeah, and
Especially with two kids under two.
oh wow! You're loaded your rucksack up there. That's cool.
That's it, man.
So we'll be on a look for that one. So Build to Last, and but I encourage everyone, listen to that after you listen to the Self Leadership Lab. You got time for it too, yeah. But no, I wish you best in those endeavor, and I like that. And I like how you're combining it and the similarities, if I can be so bold to draw them, with your Risen Men and the Risen Project is, what you've got, it takes others. We say it takes a village, and it truly does. I mean, if it's mental health or business health, anytime you go at it alone, I know it from a business side as well, because I tried to build a business on myself. And that's something I deal with every day is what can I release control of and who can I bring? There's a great book, Who Not How by Dan Sullivan is the main coach. I mean, you probably heard of him in the coaching space, but really sometimes you don't need to know how as long as you know the who. And maybe Joshua and his wife's business is the who for you all. So again, we'll put those links in there and check him out and check out his podcast. And you had a third, you had one about you had some group coaching that you're doing as well. Do you want to talk about that before we get out of here, so let people know what other offerings you got?
Yeah, sure, man. So I kind of clarify you. And so basically there comes this point in all of our lives where kind of you experience, Bobby, it's not about working harder. You need clarity on what matters most. And I hit my own spot of stuck. I call it stuck, spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
I was a pastor. I was leading, I think at the time I was leading like 8 different ministries. I had a lot of responsibility, a lot of competing priorities, and I was working hard. I was doing all the right things, and I just wasn't seeing the results that I wanted. I don't know if you've ever been there, but if you stay in that spot long enough, man, that sounds like discouragement. That maybe gets you into depression, maybe even despair, man. Anxiety was high every Monday. I hated Mondays. I was stressed. I'm like, I still love God. I love people. I love my work, Like, it just wasn't working, man. And so, like I said, that was the season where I reached out and found a coach.
Mm.
And he walked me through a clarifying journey. Really, it was an emotional intelligence and self awareness program, and it changed my life, man. It really, I slowed down long enough to do the self reflection, grew in self awareness, identified some blind spots that were eating my lunch, and we put a plan in place to grow in the areas that I needed to grow, and that's what I call. And it changed my life so much. I created my own coaching program from it, which I call Clarify You, because, like I said, there comes a point where working harder is not it. You need clarity
Mm.
on what matters most and where you're missing the mark, and you need to get a plan in place to upskill. And when you do that, man, you hit that next gear. What we want is to get you unstuck, get the needle moving again, find those key needle movers that will unlock. Um, and I try to help people find a key area of personal development and a key area of professional uh, development. And man, you get one big win in that each of those areas, your life, it hits that next level, man. And so I've been stuck. I hate feeling stuck. I know it well. And it's grace when you get someone who can show you the way out and give you the tools that you don't get back there as often, right?
Mm.
And so that's what Clarify You is all about. It's a 3-month group coaching cohort. It launches on January 21st because January 17th is the date that most people will have failed out of their New Year's resolutions. And so what I would like to do is offer some hope of, hey, okay, you did the willpower thing, you set some black belt goals when you're maybe a blue belt.
Yeah.
Let's actually slow down and do something that's going to work here. And so that's what Clarify You is all about.
All right. That is great timing and great purpose there. And I've said it so many times, it's not how we're doing things. It's not, we don't need to work harder. We don't need to put more effort in. You know, you'll see all these coaches say you got to outwork everyone in the room. Well, it doesn't matter if you're working on the wrong things and you're not working on things that matter and support your goals and vision. But beautiful. We'll put that in there. If anyone listening is interested, please reach out to Joshua. It sounds very exciting. And you know, again, don't be scared to ask. Like we talked about through this whole podcast, be vulnerable, be accepting of others. Let's do this together. Well, Josh, we're about at the end of time. I'm going to give you the last word, and I'm bad at doing that, but today I'm going to do it. So what I want to leave us with today, my friend.
There's a God above that loves you more than you could ever know, that you matter, your work matters, the failures of your past don't define you, that you've still got good things, God's still got good things in store, and that, like you said, man, and if you let others in, like, there is abundant wealth in the gifts and the graces of the people around you. And so people will help. Not always. There's plenty of bad ones out there, but if you seek wisdom, you will find it, man. And your life will be better than you can imagine.
Wow.
Life is hard, but God is good, and both can be true at the same time.
Oh man, well, amen to that, and that is well spoken. And Joshua, I thank you so much for coming on today and for sharing your journey and your stories and your offerings. And I look forward to watching you and staying in touch with you and seeing where all this goes. And I'm blessed to know you. And thank you again for your time.
Bobby, it was such a pleasure, my man.
That's awesome, man. And for all those listening, thank you so much. I hope you learned as much and enjoyed this as much as I did. Until next time, I'm Bobby Shelton. Keep leading yourself. And as we learned today, find others to support you, encourage you, and get the help that you need if you need it, because without leading yourself, you'll never be able to lead others. I want to thank you all. Have a blessed day, a blessed week. See you soon.